I'm a consulting engineer. I work in the United States with states that have capital punishment, designing and constructing execution hardware.
Do you work officially then in conjunction with the American prison system?
I do. I design and construct hardware that's used for execution purposes. I repair, redesign, and modify equipment that's presently in use. Specifically, I have designed and constructed electrocution hardware, electric chairs, gallows, lethal injection systems, and gas chambers.
Are you yourself capable of building a functional gas chamber?
Yes, indeed. This particular chamber was installed in the early 50s. It is the same identical design to chambers that were installed in prisons here in the United States as early as the early 1920s. Well, first off, the chamber, as you can see, is of all steel construction. It's welded. It is, in fact, a tank constructed much like a diving bell. The windows are all gasketed, and they're coated before each execution with Vaseline to prevent leakage. The door is likewise gasketed and Vaseline and has a fastening system which seals the door against this gasket to prevent leakage. This chamber then further is operated under a partial vacuum. Above my head in the ceiling is an exhaust port from which the chamber is normally evacuated when they're removing the gas. That fan in this particular chamber operates during the entire execution. It pulls the chamber down to a pressure which is below that of the outside atmosphere, ensuring that if anything does in fact leak, all leakage would be inward. Further, the system has a plumbing system, this gas chamber has a plumbing system which is under this floor in a small room which runs over to an adjacent room on the other side, which is called the chemical room. The chemical room has the mixing container, which is connected directly to the gas generator underneath the chamber and underneath this seat. The acid is mixed and then poured into the piping system, which then carries it under the chamber. On command from the warden, the sodium cyanide briquettes or pellets, which are in a container under this chair, are dropped into the gas generator. The gas then comes up into the chamber and kills the person who's occupying the chamber. There is a system of valves on the plumbing system to prevent any gas from flowing back, plus the fact the plumbing system is filled with water, ensuring an additional water seal to prevent gas from backing up even if the valves do leak. Just outside the chamber is the main air intake. That is opened only after the execution. Prior to the execution, the air intake is filled with water to a certain level, again to prevent backflow of the gas through the intake, even though the intake is closed and sealed. Around the inside of the chamber are intake ports that are connected to the main intake on the outside of the gas chamber. All of the lighting in the chamber, and there are 3 lamps over my head, 1 over the door and 2 just behind the seats. All of this lighting is explosion proof. It has glass envelopes covering the bulbs and cork and rubber gaskets inside, so that the envelope is screwed against the fixture, preventing any gas or anything in the air outside from getting inside at the bulb and seeing any sparking. So as you can see from looking at this facility, it is engineered from a standpoint that if a leak occurs, it will be inward. The explosion capabilities of the gas are considered because all of the lighting is explosion proof. Now, when operating the system, there is a protocol that has to be rigidly followed and a checklist that the operators utilize while doing the execution. From the mixing of the chemicals to the inserting of the chemicals to the closing of the valves and sealing of the system, everything has to be done and redundantly checked to make sure there is no leak and no operating personnel or any state witnesses, for that matter, who would be in the room directly behind me from being gassed. The operating protocol and the design is essentially what makes this chamber safe for operation. After the execution, the chamber would be evacuated for at least 15 minutes to make sure that there was no air containing gas left in the chamber. The chamber also has inlet ports in the inlet piping system that supplies the fresh air for the evacuation of the chamber. It has inlet ports for the introduction of ammonia vapor. The ammonia vapor neutralizes the gas that's left in the chamber prior to it being pumped out through the stack on the roof. After the chamber has been completely exhausted, the door would then be opened. The door would not be opened until all of the people outside were satisfied that there was no longer any gas in the chamber. There is generally a watch glass containing phenolphthalein solution someplace in the chamber which is visible through the window that the operator would view. The phenolphthalein solution changes color, and when there is no gas and the color is red, then a determination is made, and only then that the chamber can be safely opened. After the chamber is opened, those persons who are assigned the task of cleansing the body enter the chamber wearing gas masks. Gas masks especially designed for hydrogen cyanide gas. Now I should point out that these gas masks are not designed for operating in an atmosphere of hydrogen cyanide. They are only used as a safety measure for residual cyanide that might be in the chamber or in the air. Those tasked with cleaning the body then remove the individual's clothing and wash the individual's body completely. One would ruffle his hair to make sure that there is no longer any gas left in the hair. After the body has been washed, and depending upon the location and who is responsible for running the execution, the body might be washed with either ammonia, with bleach, or with caustic soda. After the body has been cleaned, it would then be redressed and turned over to the undertaker or the individual's family for burial. There would be residual hydrogen cyanide on the individual. Now, if the individual were left here for a number of hours, the cyanide would probably become inert. But since the individual is handled and the doctor must pronounce the individual dead, undertakers must handle the body immediately after the execution. It is necessary to wash the body. The residual cyanide on the individual's body, if handled with an ungloved hand and then placed in the proximity of one's mouth, one's eyes, or any orifice of the body, or if the glove leaked and the individual got some on his skin, there is a potential for death due to cyanide poisoning. Yes, after the execution and after the ammonia is sprayed into the chamber to neutralize any remaining hydrogen cyanide, the individual's body is then washed and removed. Then cleanup work begins in the chamber. The chamber is washed with water. The plumbing system is purged with caustic soda, and this will ensure that there's no residue. The chair and all surfaces in the chamber have to be hosed down after the ammonia spraying, and all of the straps have to be soaked, washed, and then resealed. These straps are of leather construction. Yes, an exhaust system must be utilized. The exhaust system has to be capable of clearing the chamber within 2 to 3 minutes, maximum. The stack should be of sufficient height to clear any surrounding structures. The normal height is approximately 40 feet. American chambers all utilize one type, hydrogen cyanide gas, which is the same as allegedly used by the Germans and known as Zyklon B. Zyklon B vaporizes or condenses, depending upon which direction one is looking, at 78 degrees Fahrenheit. That means that in order to utilize Zyklon B, we have to pump air that's been heated to an excess of 80 degrees through the actual Zyklon B carrier. In terms of evacuating the chamber, we need air which is at least 80 and perhaps 90 degrees being pumped through the chamber to prevent any condensation of the gas on the walls, floor, ceiling, chair, or the occupant of the chamber. Yes, it does. And the gas chamber also, again, should be operated with a negative pressure. In other words, there should be less air pressure inside the chamber than out. So in the event that a leak does develop, the leak will always be inward. Fresh air will be sucked into the chamber, but no gas will be sucked into the room. 1 and possibly 2. There has been never a gas chamber ever constructed which executed more than 2 persons. Well, considering the time it takes to set up for the execution, clean the body and clean the chamber after the execution so it is then safe to use, this time is approximately 2 hours, which would mean that our maximum usage, assuming we could actually run the system 24 hours a day, would give us approximately 12 persons. The gas would not circulate, the people would suffocate, we would be unable to remove the gas or the air inside due to the fact that these many persons would be blocking the intake vents, and those people that are operating the chamber would die immediately upon opening the door to the chamber. I determined that none of these chambers could have supported an execution facility for human beings. In fact, they were not used for that purpose.
I determined that none of these chambers could have supported an execution facility for human beings. In fact, they were not used for that purpose.